Though I am going to record this and then we can put it in the Facebook group. So good morning, good morning, good morning. So for everyone joining, we had a disaster on Facebook on the live. It wouldn't let me see Natalie to invite her on, and because of what Facebook have done with all their third-party apps, I couldn't use my usual app where I invite people on and it all looks lovely. Couldn't use that, and I was testing it all out yesterday to make sure I could make it work on my laptop, and that didn't work either, but it did work on the phone, but it decided not to work this morning. So long story short, we've jumped on Zoom. So it's being recorded. I will drop this in the Facebook group. Natalie's in there now, so if you do have questions, post this, and you can't attend, then just tag Natalie and she's around for you. So good morning after our disaster. It was lovely to be joined by you. So tell us a little bit about you first off.
Okay, so I am a retired dance teacher. I was a dance teacher in a past life for about 15 years. I loved it until I became a mum. Well, I still loved it after I became a mum, but when my eldest went to school, then I didn't want to work the evenings and weekends anymore. So that was quite a quick realization for me at that point. Made the really tough decision to leave the dance school, which has been taken over by one of my very good friends, and she's still running it to this day, which is amazing. But yeah, so I kind of did nothing for a year or so. Loved being mum, but still needed to do something for me. Drove me stir crazy being just at home doing nothing else. So then I basically begged a friend for a job. He had his own business. He was a financial advisor. And I used to see him on the school run with his little girl because she's the same age as my youngest. And basically just said to him one day, look, I need to do a job. I need to do something. I'll do anything. I don't care what it is. Have you got anything? And I started off in financial services, answering the phone, scanning the post, making the tea. And then, you know, as people kind of moved around in the business, I started just 2 days a week, and then somebody left and they said, could I do an extra day? Would I take on some of the kind of business chasing and things like that? So I took on a bit more in that field, and then somebody else left, and then it was, could you take on this and do a bit more on the research side? So I just ended up taking on more and more. And then one of the other girls was doing her first exam, and I thought, oh, do you know what? I fancy having a go at that. I'll learn a bit more about financial services. So I did one exam, and then I did another, and then did another. And to cut a very long story short, I think I was there for about 5-6 years. I got to the point I was doing all the writing the reports for the advisors, doing all the analytical research and the fund research, and I found it really interesting. And I got to the point where some of the advisors would start coming to me asking me for my advice on what, you know, I've got this client and they want to do this, what do you think? And I got to the point, I thought, hang on a minute, I think I could do this. So I made a decision in 2018 to get my full diploma. So I got the rest of my exams within 12 months. So I became qualified in 2019 and started advising that October. I actually left the business I was in because they'd already got 6 advisors. They didn't need any more. So I left and went to work for another company. And then my friend, who was one of the partners in the business, called me up about 4 months after I'd left and said, I'm leaving. I'm going to start a new practice. Do you want to come and work with me? And we've been back together, working together ever since. So,
wow.
Yeah, so it's really lovely. There's just myself and Roger advising in our practice. We've got 2 admin staff, and it's just, yeah, really nice atmosphere. I love it. And people laugh at me because pensions, okay, are my absolute favourite thing. And I only started my own pension when the year I turned 40. So I'm 44 now. So I've only been paying into a pension for 4 years. And until I started doing this job and learning about it, nobody had I was been self-employed my whole life. No one had ever talked to me in my 20s and 30s about the importance of paying into a pension. I didn't really understand them, didn't know the benefits of them. And it was only really having done this job that made me think, oh my God, I can't believe I'm not paying into a pension. So yeah, I started one 4 years ago. Felt like so much money at the time, and the monthly contributions felt like so much. But honestly, after I'd started paying in for the first 3 months, I didn't even notice the money going out. It was just like one of my monthly bills. And then as I've earned more, I've just increased them a little bit at a time. So I've not really noticed how much I've increased it by. And 4 years on, I look at the value now and I think, oh, I would have never saved that money in the bank. And not only do you get the basic tax relief, so for every £100 I pay in, you get £25 extra from the government. So you get your basic tax relief. And then if you're a sole trader, you're going into the higher rate tax band. As soon as you're bringing in more than £50,000 a year, you're getting taxed at 40%. Anything that you pay into your pension increases your basic rate tax band. So let's say your earnings for the year were £60,000. You pay £10,000 into a pension, it means that all your income will be taxed at the basic rate tax. So not only have you saved for your future, you've had your 25%, you've had your 20% tax relief, which is like having a 25% interest added to your money, but you're also saving yourself income tax as well. So that's why I love them so much, because there's so many advantages to them. As they grow, the growth is totally tax-free. So you save money in your bank, you pay tax on the interest. So obviously over a certain amount, but you don't do that on pensions. They're also, especially if you own, substantial property. So I know, one of my dance teacher friend who took over the business, so obviously her business is actually in her house. So the value of the house alone is quite valuable, and you can very quickly be in, especially if you've got children, in the realms of hitting inheritance tax for your children, or whoever your beneficiaries are, whereas any savings that you've got in a pension are outside of your taxable estate for things like inheritance tax. So there's so many benefits to doing them, and so many people don't actually do them, and I think a lot of the worry is that people don't really understand how they work, don't understand the benefits of them. So people do shy away from doing them a little bit.
I think it's a worry as well, right? When people, you're thinking, well, if you're only earning, let's just say, with dance teachers, some people don't earn an awful lot of money. And then some of them live hand to mouth. So it's very much like, I can't afford to put anything in a pension. It's not a priority right now. Or they will, think about a pension as something like that happens later in life. It's so reassuring to hear that you started yours late.
Yeah.
I started mine in my 30s, but I was a little bit nervous and hesitant to put my money actually into a pension. So I almost put it into an ISA in the end. And then later on moved it into a pension. But then nobody ever explained to me back then the benefits of what a pension can do. I think my fear was I was going to lock it away, and what happened if I ended up needing that money and then I couldn't access it from a pensions point of view. But it is so important, and it frustrates me so much about the education system and not teaching children the benefit of financial planning or money management, for want of a better word. And the fact they don't even mention this sort of thing. I mean, if you go into an employed job, obviously they talk about it's fairly standard these days that you have your pension taken out and all the rest of it. But for the self-employed, it's like, what on earth? Yeah, it's huge, right?
Yeah. And one of the, and you're absolutely right, there is a fear around, especially if you're in maybe your 30s or 40s, and you know you can't access pension funds till it's 55 at the minute, but it is going up to 57 in a few years. And so there is a fear that actually I'm locking this money away and I can't get at it. But the purpose of pensions is to fund that later life planning, because the state pension is so unpredictable that at the minute, I think the state pension age is 67, but I know when I Google my state pension age, it says 68 already. And the likelihood is that will still continue to rise. And one of my biggest motivations was my mum was in that awful cohort of women who should have had their state pension at 60. And she had planned to retire at 60 because my dad's 12 years older. She wanted to retire and make sure she'd got quality time with him. And the year before, when she was 59, they moved the state pension age to 65. And the year she turned 60, they moved it to 66. So she had an extra 6 years before she got that state pension that she hadn't planned a contingency for. And it's heartbreaking. And so if I can help one person, make sure they've set provisions so they're in control of when they finish working, they're in control of their own money, and they're not at the mercy of what the government decide they're going to allow us to do. So that's why the pensions are so important. But equally, I have a lot of clients who are in their 30s and 40s that usually the recommendation is, well, actually, we need some short-term savings as well. So let's think about what we can commit to both objectives, and that forms your retirement plan. In that you kind of, well, what do we need in the next 5 to 10 years? What are we going to need in the future? And I certainly wasn't on a big income when I started paying in. And it's just whatever you think is affordable. And to help you work that out, the very first thing I do with any client is sit down and go, well, what is coming in? What income do you have coming in? And especially if you're taking termly fees, that can be quite hard to work out. But you need to kind of look at it over the year, then work it back and average it out as a monthly amount, because most of our bills go out monthly. So then if you work out kind of your average monthly income, look at your essential expenditure. So that is everything that has to be paid. So all your monthly bills, everything that's non-negotiable, it has to be paid. You have a figure on that amount, and then you put down like your lifestyle expenditure, because that's really important. We don't know what's around the corner. So, your gym membership might be super important, or because actually for your mental health, you need to go to the gym 3 times a week, or whatever that might be. It might be eating out with the family once a month, or, and those expenditures are also really important. But by doing the exercise, I haven't had one single client yet that on paper should have disposable income. And when we factored all of this in and we go, right, and I say to them, right, you should have X amount of money left every month. And they look at me and go, well, we haven't. So I say, well, this extra money here, where's that going? And it's a bit like a leaky ship. It's a bit like you don't really know where this money is going. But as soon as you're aware of where it's going, you can go, actually, I didn't really need to spend that. And it's that money that you don't need for your lifestyle and your everything that's got to be paid that you could be put into a better use.
Do you not find that this thing is the worst thing in the world to have happened in many ways? In the sense of your payment system. And scam. And you're not able to really quantify, or budget unless you're doing something like the profit first system, or you're pulling your money out into spaces and goes, that's my day-to-day spending, and everything else goes into all these other spaces. just so that you understand, so you're not leaking it out. I did a webinar not long ago called Hidden Profits, how they're
Yeah.
leaking money out of their business. So I love the fact that you've talked about that today, because it's so true within financial element as well, you know, with your everyday, you know, money just, it's like water, it just flows. And when you really dig down into it, then, you know, even if it's 10 or 20 pound a week, you know, that soon mounts up over the course of a year. And if you start that early enough, by the time you get to 60 and you're ready to retire, that by compound effect, by the fact it's all compounded on top of each other with what the government has added on, means you're sitting on a tidy nest egg.
Yeah. And honestly, the easiest way to put yourself in that position is, so I have 6 bank accounts. So all with the same provider, but I've just separated them out into 6 accounts. So my earnings come into one, and I transfer to my personal account anything that has to be paid out of that, and I leave myself maybe to 100 quid or something slush fund. So that kind of pays for like the kids' school dinners and, you know, and all bits and bobs like that. So but I have a spreadsheet that tells me, and it's altered as things change, but I know how much I need to have in that account to cover everything going out. And I leave myself a very small amount extra. So that money goes into that personal account. Then in my business account, I have another spreadsheet that says everything that has to be paid from my business account in the month. And I only leave in that account everything that has to be paid. Then from that, so then I have another account. So 25% of anything that comes in, I then move into a separate account I label tax. And that's not my money. You know, that's going to the tax man. I don't consider that my money. So that I have a separate account that's that. And then everything else, I have a joint account. I have a joint account as well. So some goes into the joint account to help my husband pay for, you know, the food and everything else. But everything else that is left all goes into my savings. And it's just a separate account that is there if I need to move, you know, if the kids need new trainers, or I've got an expenditure I don't have every month, I move money back. But what that makes me do is, every time I want something that is not a regular, so every time I want something extra, I have to consciously think, do I really need that or want that? Because if I do, I have to physically go on my online banking and move the money across to pay for it. Because it makes you very conscious about what you're spending. It stops you blipping, for, you know, willy-nilly and having no clue, and getting at the end of the month and going, oh my God, how much have I spent?
Yeah.
And it just, and I find the money in my savings, I'm like, oh, that's building a lovely little, you know, a little sum. And, you know, and it's there for, you know, if it's needed. But it just helps me compartmentalize my money, so I know I never keep in my spending account more than what I need.
Yeah.
And then I move money in if there's anything extra.
I love that. I think that's a really good place to start. It's an amazing place to start for people trying to just figure it out.
Yeah.
Now I know that you're coming into my paid membership at the end of the week. Excuse me, on Friday, where we're going to dig down even deeper into LISAs, ISAs, pensions, and all this fabulous good stuff. Now, for anybody on, do you have any quick questions before we have to let Natalie go? Because we started a little bit late because of the technical issue. But if you are a member, you will have chance to pick Natalie's brain in a bit more depth on Friday. For everybody else watching when on replay, Natalie is in this group, and I will drop all the links so that you can follow her. And so follow her on Instagram. That's where she sort of hangs out. So go and follow her on Instagram, please. And get in touch if you want some financial advice, because she knows what it's like to be a dance teacher. And that really, really helps, you know, because she understands in terms of termly sessions or not having that regular income and how to stabilize that. It's really, really amazing. Amanda said she can't wait for the session on Friday. No, and me, I'm super looking forward to it. I think it'll be really, really informative. So amazing. Right. There we go. We're going to love you and leave you at that. Do you want to throw anything else in before we leave?
No, just I hope everybody that's on has found some of that useful.
Well, I know I did.
Yeah.
I love the numerous bank accounts. I have Starling, so I have spaces and I
Yeah.
divide them down. But you've got one step further. I'm like, okay, go. I'm following you.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for having me.
No, thank you. And sorry for all the tech issues. We will see you on Friday, lovely.
Yeah.
And can't wait for it. And yeah, take care.
See you later. Bye.